Alright.
So, again, I'm just wedging on the wheel head, and then make sure you attach it down. Again, it's kind of a lot of clay. I think this amount of clay is easier to center and work with than a pound of clay. The problem that you're going to be having, and I guarantee you most of you are going to have this problem, is that when you're going down, putting your fingers down and put the hole in it, you're not going to go down far enough. And you're going to have a huge, thick bottom on it. And you're going to say, so what, I can still trim it. And that's fine. But again, I want you to try to get the most out of the 4 pounds of clay that you can. So, first thing again, I got it attached to the wheel head. I'm going to go ahead and center. Who is still having trouble centering? Is there anyone? 1 or 2 people. Okay. Again, I'm going to get it wet. This is a little fast. There we go. I think the biggest thing is you need to sit back, elbows on your knees. Push. I'm not really adding much water to it. I'm just kind of drizzling it on there. Push back down. Again, this hand is just kind of sitting in the back. This hand is the one that's pushing all. I'm using all my forces in this my right arm. I like to clean up the outside and the wheel head. That way none of that clay is going to get in your way. Just scrape it off your finger. Do one more pull up. This time I'm just dipping my hands. Notice what I'm not doing, and this is what I kind of see from everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people in here. I see people doing this. What happens is that gets off center. If I continue to pull, it's going to get off center. So do one pull where you're digging deep, pulling up in one motion, and then do one push down where you're pushing down all of your energy in one motion. Okay? So now it's center. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hole in the top. Who has a trouble with this part? Alright. The easiest thing for you to do is take your left hand, sit your pinky finger just right on top, and very sternly take your right hand over the top of your pinky finger and just push down. Again, this is clay. It's not a person. You are the owner of this clay. You need to make sure that it moves to how you want it to move. Don't put your finger down and let your finger just go all over the place, because you have to control the clay. That's what it is. You have to control the clay. That's the problem. Some of you are just like, man, I'm afraid of this clay. It's not going to do anything. Push down hard. And I made like a nice little indentation for my finger. Okay? Next thing, get a little bit of water on top, my thumb's on top, and I'm just going to plunge down, and I plunge until I can't move my thumbs anymore. Like my thumbs won't go down any farther right now, but I have a nice hole started. So since I have a nice symmetrical hole started, what I'm going to do is my left hand, these 2 fingers, they're going to plunge the rest of the way down. And this is kind of a guessing game. What I like to do is check here, so I'm checking, and then I look on the outside, I'm pretty good. I have probably about 1/4 of an inch on the out. Does that make sense? So guess, or check here, check on the outside. The rest of this is just like when we were making our mugs. Instead of pulling up straight, I'm going to pull towards the center. What that's going to do is give me a nice tall shape, rather than if I pull up, centrifugal force is going to make it want to go out. So again, this is going to be where I'm digging one time and I'm pulling very slow. So I'm taking my hand on the inside, I'm digging underneath the clay, I'm making a little spot where I can pull the clay, and all this stuff that's happening under here, it doesn't matter. I'm supporting the clay with the outside of this sponge, and I'm again pulling from the inside. My hand on the outside is just kind of supporting it, and I'm pushing towards the middle. Again, that one pull took me a while, but I was continuously pushing on the clay. This clay is a little bit firmer, so it's a little bit easier. I think a little bit harder of a clay is a little bit easier to do, because if it's soft, it wants to do its own thing because it's so waterlogged. I'm going to get it wet one more time here. I'm going to clean up the bottom again.
Make this look so easy.
Put my hand in again and do the same thing. So my hand on the inside has got a big thing or a big chunk of clay in my hand, and I'm pulling all of it up. And I'm kind of, not right now obviously, but holding my breath when I do it. And the top's a little jank, so I'm going to fix it. If the top is like wobbly like that, just take a sponge, push down on it. Alright, so I have a basic cylinder. I'm not looking for a certain height or anything. Some of you would say, oh well, I'm done right now because you have something. Okay? I want you to really take your time and decide what you want this to be. So what I'm going to do is I want mine to be a little bit rounder out here and then very narrow at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to push a lot from the inside. I'm going to support it a little bit from the outside. And then I'm going to really collar in here at the top after I'm finished. So I'm going to work on the bottom first, and then I'm going to finish the top. The one thing I do want to do is I want to make the bottom a little bit more narrow. And I know I have some clay down there. So I'm just going to take a rib tool. And again, this is just, I'm brute forcing the rib against the project. I'm just sticking it up against it, making sure it stays in one spot, and it's going to clean up the rest. That means you have to really hold on there. And I can kind of go slow and do the same thing. But I wanted that bottom to be nice and thin. So, again, I'm going to start moving out. This is where I'm going to go about this speed. Maybe a little faster. That's good. And again, the slower that you go, the slower that you need to pull up. Because if I'm trying to pull this up really fast, it's going to come up on one side and it's going to stay thin on the other side. Or it's going to be thin on one side and thick on the other side. So, hand in. I'm going to start pushing out from the inside. You can kind of see that bubble. I want to do it one more time from the bottom. Alright, so I have the round part that I want. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in from the outside. So I'm going to take my sponge. push a little bit heavier from the inside. And this is where your clay is going to get a little wobbly. And you can kind of see that it's starting to take control now. This is not something I'm going to get done in one pool. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my hands a little wet. And I'm going to squeeze from the outside. Pull up and let off gently. This is where you're going to be a little more loving to the clay than mean to the clay. Again, I'm just barely touching the clay. I'm getting it to the shape that I want it. And then, I don't have a metal rib. I'll just try to do it with this. The last thing I want to do, if this is the shape that I like, I'm going to make sure that I get all the slip off the outside. So I'm using this rib, forming the clay to the rib. It's nice and clean over there. Again, I'm a little bit worried about the top. I don't like what the top looks like, so I'm going to fix that here in a second. I would probably use a metal rib where I can bend it, but I'm just going to use this wooden rib now, and I can just rotate. But I want to make sure I clean up all the extra clay from the outside. And again, have your design in mind. Take a piece of tape and put it in front of you. Have your design in mind when you're making your vase. I'm going to thin up the bottom here. And then the last thing I'm going to do, because I don't like the top here, is I'm going to pull the top off. So do that. I'm kind of pinching this out as well. And again, it's really about keeping your hands in one spot. Okay, so this is your ultimate goal. And again, that probably took me, go ahead and press stop and see how long it